Looking back in Richmond now, we've seen already this morning that literature matters, so also do symbols. Their names alone conjure up worlds of feeling, good and bad. Old Glory is a symbol. So is the swastika. So is the olive branch. So is Jim Crow. At an exhibition in Richmond now, the world conjured up by Jim Crow is being faced squarely. Ron Allen has been there to see the films and photographs and to meet some people who remember when the world of Richmond, Virginia really was black and white.
White people believed that black people were an inferior race. I think that that was just a basic assumption that was in the air that people breathed.
Everything was made to make you feel that you were less than a human being.
I work all the week in the blazing sun. I work all the week in the blazing sun.
Richmond, Virginia, the capital of the Confederate South, an unlikely place for these stark images and sounds of cradle-to-grave segregation. A series of exhibits unprecedented here has the city grappling with its past. Jim Crow has been brought to life.
Jim Crow himself was his first solid historical reference is a minstrel character, a happy dancing slave, which is in itself a black stereotype.
Greg Kimball is the curator of the Valentine Museum's exhibit that explores how those stereotypes develop from folklore to custom as Richmond's white residents adjusted to living alongside their former black slaves who were free.
It was actually a fairly reasonable solution to the white mind. It was not as extreme as the kind of handling of Indians in the American past, which was very severe. It kept black labor in the South, yet it stopped the antagonism over what was known as social equality.
There was, of course, among the good people, nice people, kind people, a very, very affectionate relationship with black people.
Mary Tyler Cheek's family was among Virginia's early settlers.
Black people were promised things that weren't fulfilled by the government, and white people, especially those who had not had good relationships with black people, were terrified.
When were you born?
1883.
That makes you how old?
106.
Morgan Jones says that in his 106 years, he's worked every job a poor man could while growing up in the segregated South. Those museum artifacts were part of his life.
Do you remember seeing signs around that said colored only, white only?
Well, yes, I see plenty of that. I see plenty of that, although you have to take your bitters with your sweets. You can't have it good all the time.
What was bitter? What was the bitter that you had to swallow?
Meanness. Meanness. People treating you mean.
Who?
That was your bitter pill.
Do you remember years and years ago riding buses around town to get back and forth to work?
Yeah.
What was that like?
Well, you know why your seat was, and he knew it why his. You know what that meant, don't you?
I think so.
You know why your seat, you know why his.
How'd that make you feel?
Well, I was brought up in that. I was used to it. Didn't go hard with me.
You know, talking about those speaker lines.
But many educated blacks never accepted second-class citizenship. Jim Crow's laws motivated Oliver Hill to become an attorney.
I used to feel as a black person that the first prerequisite for a job like patrolman, conductor or motorman on streetcars, or conductor, brakeman on trains, where you dealt with the public, that you had to have a nasty attitude towards Negroes. That was the first prerequisite. Then after that, you...
I wonder when will I get to be called a man? Do I wait till I get 93?
There had always been protest, but one of the unintended results of segregation was that many black fraternal orders and community organizations became stronger. Black riders boycotted Richmond streetcars in 1904 as the roots of the civil rights movement began to take shape.
I wonder when will I get to be called a man? Try to wait till I get 93.
The Negro community was more closely knit, and all levels of economic classes lived together. Everything centered in the black community around the church and the school and maybe a black theater. And that was it.
Were you conscious of the fact that you were living in a segregated society?
Oh, sure. When my son was a small boy, we didn't let him answer the telephone because he's going to get a lot of obscene stuff. I had, here in Richmond, I had cross burn on my lawn.
They said if you was white, you'd be all right. If you was brown, you'd stick around. But as you black, oh brother, get back, get back, get back.
Most black Richmonders lived in an area that came to be known as Jackson Ward. The white power brokers in town seized that as an opportunity to limit the potential impact of the black vote.
Well, Jackson Ward was a gerrymandered district of the political ward of the city, created specifically by white politicians to encompass, draw in as many black voters as possible. Jackson Ward became a state of mind rather than simply a political ward.
If you was white, you'd be all right. If you was brown.
Nowadays, Jackson Ward symbolizes the legacy of Jim Crow. It remains the focal point of Richmond's black community, and it remains an area where the promise of redevelopment has not been fulfilled. While the legal barriers of Jim Crow have been dismantled, reminders of its social and economic barriers remain.
We have a few lawyers in some of the larger firms. We have a few people in investment. There is some movement, but the movement is not at a rapid enough pace to overcome the deficiencies. The gap is widening between black and whites. And that's true in Richmond like it is everywhere else.
I guess we can expect is that the legal and other barriers to blacks living where they want to live can be taken down, but if I, as a white person, don't want a black person living beside me, I can move. And until, again, I think unless we can deal with that kind of mentality, I don't know how much further we can go.
These bridges to the past are on exhibit to help the community make that journey and to confront what has often been ignored.
And we've got to devote more of our time and energy to seeing to it that more children and blacks are exposed to these things. And then we also need to encourage white people to come in and see.
So then most people probably would look at that exhibit as something in the past, as ancient history to use it.
Yes, but the more sensitive ones do relate it to themselves, and you're putting that seed in.
Have things changed over?
Things have changed. It may be a long time, but it'll come up. It'll come after maybe 100 years. Pop right up in your face. You can't stop it. Time and time brings on all things. Time and time brings on all things. Time and time brings on all things.
Lord, when my